Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. Peninsula Cao Thief. What's wrong with the prosecutor's arbitrary actions? Don't envy the mandarin ducks, don't envy the immortals, only envy the wealthy every day. The prosecutor is the ceiling of the peninsula. Cui Enhao, start crossing the peninsula, prosecutor. Did the sky collapse and start the game? Black society, prosecutors are undercover agents on both sides. Cui Enhao just wants to cut everything and enjoy his life as a prosecutor. But he found that there was no way back anymore. He had collected the money, and he had completed the task. Then he can only climb up regardless of everything. Stabilize your innocent wife. He sent the father-in-law in with a backhand. Auntie, you don't want your father to suffer inside, do you? Sister-in-law, you don't want this family to just break up like this, do you? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Broad and Profound, Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding ding, the crisp sound of tapping echoed in his ears, and Cui Enhao's consciousness gradually became clear. He tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids were as heavy as iron blocks. You can open your eyes now. A strange male voice sounded, with a hint of laughter. Cui Enhao blinked hard and finally opened his eyes. Where is he? Looking around, the lights were dim and the space was spacious, with a desk, a nameplate, and a computer. This seems to be an office. However, the situation seems to be a bit off. Isn't he avoiding stray bullets in the restaurant? And why is his hands and feet unable to move? Before he could figure it out, a large amount of memories surged into his heart, almost causing him to faint. Cui Enhao felt a wave of nausea, but soon returned to normal. He has traveled, now in 2000, on the peninsula. He used to do legal business on the North Mexico border and his life was decent. He didn't expect to encounter a riot. Dufan and government weapons were mixed up, and before he closed his eyes, the last thing he saw was a stray missile flying in. Fortunately, he traveled to a relatively developed and safe place. This body, also known as Cui Enhao, is 25 years old and is a prosecutor in Seoul's Central District Prosecutors and Criminal Investigation Department. He looked around in confusion and couldn't help but wonder. Why am I here? In the midst of surging thoughts, a blurry memory gradually surfaced. Originally, today he accompanied a lawyer named Li Xianmei to consult on his psychological condition. At the same time, he also took this opportunity to go deep into this psychological counseling agency and secretly investigate a case of illegal drug sales. As for Li Xianmei, he only vaguely remembers that she was his younger sister in college. However, he couldn't recall any other information about her. Where is she? Cui Enhao tried to rotate his eyes, trying to understand the situation around him. Although the body cannot move, the eyeballs can still move. His gaze swept through the room and eventually landed on the spacious lounge chair beside him. On the lounge chair, a young woman lay half undressed. At this moment, the man who had previously spoken walked up to the woman and lightly tapped the glass with a spoon, making a crisp, ding-ding sound. He should be a psychologist. Is it that he is selling prohibited drugs? Seemingly sensing Cui Enhao's movements, the psychologist turned his head and stood beside him, his face very close. Well, just be conscious. The man in the white coat smiled insincerely and said, I'll let your girlfriend appreciate it later. How did I play with you? He gently stirred Cui Enhao's chest and abdomen with a spoon, licking his dry lips with the tip of his tongue, and his tone was filled with evil satisfaction. If such a perfect body were cut off and sold to urgently needed humans afterwards, it would definitely yield considerable profits. Cui Enhao was taken aback by this disgusting remark, which made him shudder and extremely uncomfortable. He widened his eyes and stared incredulously at the psychologist in front of him. You don't want the beautiful sister next to you, instead you want to pick up soap. Playing so beautifully. From what he said, will you still be punished after finishing it? It seems that this doctor not only sells illegal drugs, but also engages in the sale of human organs. This is a big case. While Cui Enhao was still immersed in shock, the doctor's actions made him increasingly fearful. His shirt was rudely pulled open, and his cold fingertips brushed over his chest muscles, creating clusters of goosebumps. He forced himself to calm down and analyze the situation before him. He did not feel any effect of anesthesia, and his consciousness was very clear, just his body could not move. Combined with the few ding sounds he just heard, he suddenly understood everything. He was hypnotized. Cui Enhao's mind instantly recalled his previous experience in Mexico, where he had made a living in the local mafia. Although the gangs mainly dominated by force, hypnosis was also one of their common methods. He had the privilege of seeing it before and thus learned some methods to relieve hypnosis. He knew very well that in order to break free from this evil hypnosis, he must maintain conscious alertness, distract his attention, and then firmly affirm himself. As long as he can complete the final step and break the subconscious's trust in the hypnotist, he can regain control of his body. Cui Enhao's alertness is extremely high, and his attention is distracted by the surrounding environment. At this moment, he urgently needs a power of self-affirmation. He tried his best to perceive his physical condition while giving himself deep self-suggestion. His pupils dilated, and a sentence echoed repeatedly in his mind. I am vast and profound. I am vast and profound. This is his greatest affirmation of himself. At this moment, the psychotherapist took out a bottle of medicine from the drawer of his desk, poured out a pill and placed it in his palm, then knocked on the glass twice. Eat this, he said excitedly. Cui Enhao was shocked in his heart. It wasn't that kind of drug that made people fall asleep, was it? Cui Enhao's heart was strongly resisting, and he wanted to grit his teeth. However, his right hand unconsciously lifted it, pinching the red particle into his mouth, and his Adam's apple moved up and down, swallowing it. At that moment, Cui Enhao's eyes suddenly lit up. He can feel his fingers now. He can immediately take control of his body. He must not fall here. Chapter 2. Playing the middle way of infernal affairs, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although he felt the heat of his body and the touch of the abnormal psychologist touching his abdominal muscles, which made Cui Enhao feel nauseous, this heat broke through the shackles of his body's control. At a critical moment, amidst the negligence of the perverted doctor, Cui Enhao decisively waved his right hand. Puff. The man in a white coat fell to the ground in response, rolling several times and groaning in pain. Cui Enhao stabilized his figure, clenched his fists, and felt the extraordinary strength of his body. Is this a benefit brought by travel? He feels that he is capable of defeating 10 people at this moment. Ashiba. How could you move? The pervert covered his left face, his face full of disbelief. His hypnosis, self-taught and successful, never fails. He can preserve people's consciousness and also make them forget their memories. He has tried that kind of married game more than once, with a combination of men and women, and not tired of work. He has a deep understanding of it. He just cleaned up the memory of this young man, thinking he could enjoy this wonderful body. He knew that the young man in front of him came from the 7-Star Society, and there must have been malicious intentions in this visit. He even planned to cut off some organs for sale afterwards. Recently, the club happened to hit the path of a hospital and needed organs. However, he never expected to encounter failure on this young man. Cui Enhao tightly tugged at his waistband, took a step forward, without any hesitation, kicked over the despicable doctor with one foot, and then stomped hard a few more times. Shiba. You just wait to die. Miscellaneous. Shiba. His innocence and life were almost gone, and now his body is still unbearable hot. He urgently needs to vent his emotional pressure. However, as he kicked and kicked, his face gradually became ugly. The doctor lay on the ground, with an expression of enjoyment on his face. What a pervert. Cui Enhao withdrew his foot in disgust and turned towards Li Xianmei next to him. Her slightly curled light brown long hair was scattered on the lounge chair, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, her nose small, and her red lips gently opened as she breathed. The beige short suit jacket was open, the white shirt was unbuttoned with 2 buttons, and the snow-covered mountain scenery was enticing. Wearing a short black A-line skirt, the thin blanket that should have been covering the body has been pulled aside, and the 2 beautiful legs wearing black stockings are overlapping. Her white high heels have been kicked off, her feet wrapped in black stockings are slightly curled up, and her small toes are round and compact, arranged neatly. Is the woman in front of me really the law student who values both beauty and wisdom? Her skin is more beautiful than snow, her eyebrows and eyes are picturesque, which is admirable. Cui Enhao took a deep breath, trying to suppress the internal heat caused by the medication. He gently shook Li Xianmei's shoulder, hoping to wake her up. However, she only furrowed her brows slightly and remained asleep. He felt helpless in his heart, knowing that if she didn't take a more aggressive approach, she might fall asleep for several hours. His gaze quickly swept over her and finally settled on her plump buttocks. Pop! A crisp round of applause rang out, and Cui Enhao slapped her buttocks hard and hard. Li Xianmei woke up from her dream and let out a painful cry. Her confused gaze instantly turned into coquettish anger at the moment she saw Cui Enhao. "Senior, why are you hitting me?" she complained, and the pain in her buttocks made her frown. Cui Enhao didn't answer, just pointed to the button on her chest that was open. Li Xianmei immediately understood everything, her face instantly turned pale, and a hint of regret and disappointment flashed in her eyes, but was soon replaced by deep fear. She looked up at Cui Enhao, tears swirling in her eyes. She trembled and asked, "Senior, are you okay? Did you call the police?" Cui Enhao comforted and replied, "Not yet. I'll control him first and then go out and report to the police." He looked at her worried gaze and felt a warmth in his heart. This junior sister still cared about him quite a bit. However, he absolutely cannot let Li Xianmei know the process of his reporting to the police. Because his current memory tells him that he needs to complete 2 tasks. Firstly, he needs to call the superior of the prosecutor's office and request the court to issue an arrest warrant and search warrant to arrest the psychologically deranged doctor, and then find those prohibited drugs and possibly even organ trafficking incidents. Secondly, he needs to call the president of the 7-Star Society and ask him to send someone to take over the business in this area after the prosecutor's office completes the search and crackdown on the criminals of the Chuanan Association. He wants to use the black intelligence of the 7-Star Society to help the prosecutor's office crack down on crime, and then fill the gap left by the prosecutor's office after cracking down on crime to fill the business of the 7-Star Society. All of this was unexpected, but within reason. The original owner was an orphan who was secretly trained by the well-known soul gang, 7-Star Society. In that era's mafia, they loved to cultivate backbone from a young age because such people were loyal enough and had a handle in their hands, making it difficult for them to lose control. The original owner, through his own efforts, became a prosecutor and became an undercover agent for the 7-Star Society in the prosecutor's office. The leaders of the prosecutor's office took a liking to the background of the original owner, who had no father or mother, simple identity information, and pure wealth, and ultimately chose to use money and beauty to win over and control him. Then, they used these manipulations of power and color trading to threaten him, making him actively accept the solicitation of the 7-Star Society, and using the 7-Star Society as a channel for the underworld to provide intelligence to the leaders. This left Cui Enhao somewhat stunned. He didn't expect that not only could he not easily navigate between black and white, but he also became a tool jointly utilized by both. He turned out to be a double agent. Chapter 3. Filial Piety for a Strong Wife, for Collection. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Cui Enhao roughly untied the psychologist's belt and tie, and then tied his limbs together. Let Li Xianmei stay in the room while walking down the corridor. He must handle things according to established procedures, not easily disrupt plans, and avoid unnecessary trouble. He took out his phone, which was an old Sanqing SGH.E600. Before he could even flip through his contacts, his phone rang. The familiar melody echoes in the air. Slowly without feeling, Cui Enhao deeply agrees with the original owner's musical taste. Jackie Chung was indeed a household name in Korea during that era. But I prefer Dawn. He opened his phone and saw a call displayed as Minister Park Chung-won. He quickly searched his memory and found that this was his immediate leader, Park Chung-won, the head of the Seoul Central District Prosecutors and Criminals Department. He took a deep breath and answered the phone. Hello, Enhao. Park Chung-won's friendly voice came from the other end of the phone. Minister, it's me, Cui Enhao responded in a low voice. How's the matter going? Park Chung-won asked directly. At number 8, 48th Street, Zhongwu Road, Mingdong District, there will be people selling prohibited drugs in southern Sichuan. The main culprits and hypnosis patients have committed sexual crimes here. Cui Enhao spoke quickly, as if afraid of missing any details. Got it, we'll send someone right away. Is there anything else to say? Park Chung-won's tone was full of seriousness. I don't have it for now, but I just want to ask the minister when I can cut off the task on the 7-Star Society side. Cui Enhao cautiously probed and asked. He now yearns to break free from his gang identity and become a promising and powerful prosecutor. In prosperous South Korea, prosecutors undoubtedly stand at the pinnacle of power. Park Chung-won, the minister who was deeply influenced by power, said earnestly to Cui Enhao, do you understand your responsibilities? The task is not yet completed, do you want to relax your guard? His voice was deep and powerful, you just need to completely eliminate the black and evil forces in your jurisdiction, and the local prosecutor's office will naturally clear your criminal record. At that time, you will return to the public eye as a hero. Cui Enhao cursed inwardly, grass you horse, Shiba. If you don't want me to go back, just speak up. His thinking is more open-minded than the original owner, and he is well aware of Park Chung-won's intentions. Although the original owner only served as a prosecutor for less than a year, he has been involved in various crimes such as corruption and bribery. Thank you, Minister. I will definitely give my all and continue to fight for your cause of combating crime. He is always skilled in the art of speaking. Park Chung-won was very happy after hearing this, laughed loudly, and hung up the phone. Listening to the busy tone on the phone, Cui Enhao couldn't help but grip his phone tightly. The feeling of being controlled by others makes him very unhappy. He cursed in his heart. West 8. The beginning is on hell difficulty. But he didn't stop his movements. He flipped through his contact list and made a phone call to Auntie, the president of the 7-Star Society. Hello, Enhao. Dad, the matter has been settled. Okay, I'll arrange the next things. Yes. Cui Enhao put down his phone and felt a headache. When he said, Dad, the fog in his heart seemed to dissipate instantly, and the fragments of memory pieced together to form a clear picture. Just yesterday, he and Zhang Auntie's daughter, Zhang Sushi, walked hand in hand into the Palace of Marriage. They met at the same time at the Judicial Training Institute, and their fate seemed to be the result of Zhang Auntie's clever arrangement in secret. This marriage aims to tightly bind prosecutor Cui Enhao to their family ship. Park Chung-won, on the other hand, was well aware of this matter and tacitly agreed to it all. It was he who guided Cui Enhao to contact the 7-Star Society. For them, having a prosecutor as their son-in-law and an undercover lackey dressed in a gangster outfit are all ideal things. Park Chung-won is also very familiar with Zhang Sushi's identity. This young lady from the gang, due to the tragedy of her family, deeply abhors evil. She became a judge of the Seoul Central District Court with her own strength, and her goal was to send her gang president's father to prison. What a powerful filial piety. However, at yesterday's wedding, Zhang Auntie came uninvited and forcibly joined the celebration. When the wedding ended and the guests dispersed, Zhang Auntie found an opportunity to reveal to him about the sale of prohibited drugs by the Chuanan Association. He hopes that Cui Enhao can solve this problem as a prosecutor, and he can take the opportunity to occupy this vacancy. This conversation was unexpectedly overheard by Zhang Sushi. Zhang Sushi, who had a deep belief in Cui Enhao's identity as a prosecutor and believed that the two were a perfect match, was filled with anger. She felt betrayed by these two people. On the night of her wedding, Zhang Sushi locked herself in her room and refused him entry. Chapter 4. It seems that one can no longer be a person, seeking collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cui Enhao is trapped in a complex background and a chaotic life. He could not help but roast that every plot was destined to be overheard. Is this the common dog blood plot in novels? He felt a headache and some weakness in his body. Cui Enhao's troubles are endless. The prosecutor's office has evidence of his bribery and power and sex transactions, while the Seven-Star Society has a handle on him to cover up illegal activities such as crimes. At home, he also has a newlywed wife who, as a judge, detests black and astringent behavior. Cui Enhao leaned against the wall of the corridor and vigorously tapped his forehead. The adverse reactions caused by the medication are becoming increasingly apparent, causing congestion in both ends. At this moment, Li Xianmei walked out of the office and asked in shock, "Senior, have you finished reporting to the police?" Cui Enhao replied, another prosecutor will come with a search warrant in a while. Xianmei, you should go back first, and I will handle it here. I still need to take notes. Li Xianmei is quite familiar with these procedures. Cui Enhao shook his hand and refused, "No need, you can drive my car back first, and I'll find you later." Speaking, he threw the car key to Li Xianmei. He doesn't want Li Xianmei to stay at this scene. The effectiveness of the medication made him feel uneasy, and in addition, he had many questions to ask the psychologically twisted doctor. He did not disclose any doubts about human organ trading to Park Chung-won, and the intelligence obtained from dark sources also did not include this one. He hopes to find clues in these clues that can help him turn over. Li Xianmei tightly held the car key, her gaze carefully scanning Cui Enhao's body, and a blush appeared on her face. She was about to say something more, but Cui Enhao had already turned around and walked into the office, closing the door. She shouted in the direction of the office, "I'll wait for the senior in the car first." Then he muttered softly, "Senior, you are really full of vitality." Then she sighed softly, "What a pity." In the office, Cui Enhao found an unused paper cup next to the water dispenser, poured a few glasses of ice water, and drank it all in one gulp. The water in this water dispenser is absolutely clean, even psychologically twisted people need to drink water, and there is no need for them to engage in abnormal behavior towards themselves. The cold liquid flowed throughout his body, and Cui Enhao's mood gradually calmed down. Walking up to the psychologically twisted doctor, he squatted down and patted his face, but the abnormal psychologist's gaze remained very eerie. Cui Enhao asked, "Besides illegal drugs, who else do you help with human organs?" The doctor stubbornly replied, "Axiba." "How did you wake up?" "Shiba. No one can do it." Cui Enhao picked up the identification card pinned to his chest and glanced at it. "Jin Shiyu, right." He stood up and kicked hard again, shouting irritably, "If you don't tell me, I will reveal to the prosecutor's office about your involvement in the sale of human organs in the southern Sichuan region, and there will naturally be pliers to pry open your mouth." Jin Shiyu's eyes instantly became full of doubts, and he answered cautiously, "Your weight is not enough. I need to talk to Director Zhang." Cui Enhao thought for a moment and continued, I will have President Zhang personally have a long talk with you, but it must be after you enter. He looked at the time and added, think carefully. It's less than 10 minutes, the police are coming soon. As soon as he finished speaking, he easily turned around and leaned against Jin Shiyu's office chair, his legs naturally resting on his desk. He picked up a water glass and drank it comfortably. He had no worries in his heart and knew that Jin Shiyu would definitely yield to his pressure. Faced with two choices, Jin Xianbin, an intellectual of the gang, cannot fail to understand the interests between them. Sure enough, within 2 minutes, Jin Shiyu lying on the ground couldn't bear it and shouted loudly. I say it. I say it. Jin Shiyu's voice was full of eagerness, as he struggled to face Cui Enhao. Jin Shiyu weighed in his heart and now confessed to Cui Enhao, admitting to selling prohibited drugs and receiving a sentence of 3 to 5 years, still remaining silent now. He was subjected to severe torture and forced to confess after entering, and was eventually found to have been involved in organ trafficking and intentional murder, resulting in a life imprisonment sentence. He finally made up his mind and chose to confess to Cui Enhao. He understood that the Seven-Star Society was also a mafia and needed this business. Jin Shiyu shouted softly, the buyer is Seoul Paradise Hospital, and the organ collection location is in the underground warehouse of the supermarket next to the Dongqing police station. I am only responsible for hypnosis, and I really don't know the rest. Cui Enhao silently remembered these two places. There are many hospitals in Seoul, and he cannot fully understand them, so he can only conduct further investigations. He then asked, where are the surveillance cameras in your area? I don't have surveillance cameras here, Jin Shiyu replied in a dejected voice. Cui Enhao nodded, which also met his expectations. How could he possibly install surveillance cameras when he can do a man-woman job in the office? Isn't it clear to shoot directly with a camera? Now he knows which hospital they are selling organs to, and the tribute he made to Park Chung-won this month has also been in place. He has also made arrangements for the expansion of his father-in-law's territory. In the coming time, he must find a way out for himself. In order to completely break free from the entanglement of the gang, Cui Enhao is determined to clear his past and erase all possible crimes that may be pinched. He devised a clever plan to depict his actions as a hidden legend, adding a unique honor to his resume. In this way, even if there is a possibility of overturning the case in the future, he is not afraid. As for the friendship with Zhang Auntie, he decided to stay and consider it later. The biggest challenge, and also the problem he needs to work hard to solve, is how to persuade Park Chung-won to agree to his just cutting and stop him from working as an undercover agent. He understood that to achieve this, he must find an opportunity to retrieve that crucial evidence. Another option is to send Park Chung-won and his cheap father-in-law away, so that he can naturally take over the Seven-Star Society and continue his career as a prosecutor. He decided that since both sides had pushed him to the brink, he no longer had to worry about anything. He is ready and no longer bound by the moral constraints of mortals. Chapter 5. Reported by Wife, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cui Enhao lazily leaned on the chair, casually throwing one or two questions, while Jin Shiyu responded vaguely, unwilling to say more. Seeing this scene, Cui Enhao also felt bored, so he closed his eyes and began to take a nap. After about 10 minutes, the distant siren gradually became clear and finally stopped downstairs. The office building they are in is over 30 floors high, and this psychological counseling institution is only located on the 4th floor, with limited space and only one waiting room and one office. The rudimentary conditions made Cui Enhao doubt how he convinced people to come here for paid consultation. The facade work is also quite perfunctory. Soon, a rough sound of opening the door rang out, and Cui Enhao slowly lowered his legs and looked towards the passers-by. I saw a young man under 30 years old, dressed in a silver-gray suit, wearing a tie, wearing leather shoes, with hair in his 30s, meticulously combed. He wore a prosecutor's badge on his chest, and his appearance was decent, typical of a Peninsula elite. Cui Enhao searched for information about this man in his memory. His name is Jin Yongshun, and he is a prosecutor in the Criminal Investigation Department. He was a classmate of Cui Enhao at the Judicial Training Institute. He has an upright personality, upholds the principle of punishing evil and promoting good, is not afraid of power, and faithfully defends national laws. However, within the department, he is not popular and is always assigned to do the hard work. Cui Enhao couldn't help but laugh out loud. This one-track thinking style is indeed rare in the Korean judicial community, and it's no wonder he's being excluded. Cui Enhao stood up, with a smile on his face and a deep bow. Then, he looked up and said in a calm tone, "Senior, please take over this case. I need to go back and report my work first." Then, he nodded to the police officers behind Jin Yongshun and whispered, "You've all worked hard too. No hard work. This is our responsibility. Prosecutor, you're too polite." Several police officers immediately bowed and answered. In the peninsula, the concept of superiority and inferiority is deeply ingrained here, which reminds Cui Enhao of his days in Mexico. The people there wouldn't be so subservient and start working at first glance. As a prosecutor on the peninsula, he does indeed enjoy superior treatment. Cui Jian. Jin Yongshun suddenly stopped him. What advice do you have, senior?" Cui Enhao turned around and asked curiously. "Sushi asked me to investigate you, but I temporarily suppressed it." Jin Yongshun turned around and looked straight at Cui Enhao, asking in a serious tone, "You were full of justice and swore to eliminate corruption in our country's judicial system. Why is this happening now?" His eyes were filled with pain and confusion. "I hope you can give me an explanation, otherwise, I will make everything you have done public." Cui Enhao was stunned and didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the three police officers standing between them. The three police officers felt his gaze and immediately lowered their heads, cursing inwardly. "Damn it! Why do the struggles between your prosecutors involve us little police officers?" Lying on the ground, Jin Shiyu suddenly cursed loudly. "Ashiba! You cheated me by stepping on your horse, you're the prosecutor. You cheated me by stepping on your horse." Cui Enhao ignored him and looked at Jin Yongshun with confusion. This person's behavior is so strange, as if performing a play. The pain in the eyes and the struggle in the heart, becoming the male lead in a Korean drama is not an exaggeration. Just because during his studies, he dared to speak up for justice and took away your beloved goddess of the Judicial Training Institute, and held a grudge against him. Not as handsome as him, not as wise as him, not even as big as him in terms of guy matters. Don't you have any self-awareness? In spite of roast in his heart, Cui Enhao still grasped the key information in his words. Zhang Sushi has already started to look for prosecutors to investigate him, and it is normal for prosecutors to investigate each other. During his year at the prosecutor's office, the original owner remained low-key and did not handle many cases. He was inconspicuous in the Seoul Central District prosecutors, so naturally no one would investigate him specifically. However, his wife, who had just been married for less than a day, wanted to investigate him just because she heard a conversation. Is her sense of justice so strong? Cui Enhao felt a headache. The two mountains had left him breathless, and now a little demon suddenly appeared. It seems that he can only solve this problem first. He has never been a soft-hearted person. Cui Enhao smiled and responded firmly, "I understand. I will report to the local inspection department." Jin Yongshun expressed satisfaction with his cooperation and nodded slightly. However, his eyebrows immediately furrowed and he issued a warning. Pay attention to maintaining the image of a prosecutor. Image. Cui Enhao couldn't help but look down at himself. Shiba. Damn Jin Shiyu. 2 more feet up there. Chapter 6. Wife and glasses girl, seeking collection, seeking flowers. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Cui Enhao took off his casual suit jacket, casually draped it over his arm, separated the crowd, and walked into the elevator. The sound of police sirens and the arrival of prosecutors have already spread among the floors, attracting many office workers to watch. Arriving downstairs, Cui Enhao stopped in front of the vending machine, purchased 2 bottles of mineral water, and drank 1 bottle in one go. To quickly eliminate the effects of this medication, it is necessary to drink plenty of water to lower body temperature and expel the drug components from the body. Why is he so familiar with these? I've seen so much in my past life. As soon as she stepped out of the office building, Li Xuanmei's anxious expression caught her eye, and she still stood by the car. "Senior, how is the situation?" she urgently inquired. "It has been handed over to other prosecutors, you can rest assured that evil will eventually be brought to justice." He spoke firmly in his tone. These words were spoken from his mouth, making Cui Enhao feel a hint of irony. However, upon second thought, he realized that he was ultimately executing justice. Although his approach may be somewhat ironic, it was always better than those who talked about justice but did not put it into practice. Cui Enhao gestured to Li Xuanmei to board the car. "That is a black BYD. Where is the address?" he asked. "Number 9 Central Road, Shanghang Street, don't you know, senior?" Li Xuanmei looked at him with confusion. "I just wanted to confirm, I didn't expect it to be so close. If there is a chance in the future, I will also go shopping." Cui Enhao started the vehicle and said with a smile. "Where do you live, senior?" Li Xuanmei hesitated for a moment and asked curiously. "Near the National Central Jinmao building, it is only 4 to 5 kilometers away from where you live." "So close." "I work at the Central District Prosecutors and my wife works at the Central District Court, so we bought a house nearby." Cui Enhao chatted while driving, trying to shift the topic. "You live on Shanghang Street, your family must be very well off." "They are all from home. My father is the owner of Shiyu law firm," Li Xuanmei said with some embarrassment. In court, she was able to state the facts to the judge without fear, but when faced with this senior, she found it difficult to speak up. She comforted herself secretly, perhaps because what had just happened made her feel guilty. And Cui Enhao captured some information from her words. "Shiyu law firm. Isn't that a famous law firm located near the Seoul Central District Court? I always thought this beautiful and charming student was just an ordinary person, but I didn't expect her to be the apple of a well-known lawyer's eye, which can be described as inheriting her father's business." Cui Enhao's mind was full of ups and downs, recalling every detail about her. Taking Li Xuanmei to her residence, Cui Enhao casually agreed to the next visit, and then drove away towards home amidst her melancholic gaze. He needs to first eliminate Zhang Sushi's prejudice and guard against him, or directly solve the problem of Zhang Sushi. The procuratorate and court gave them half a month of marriage leave, and at this moment, Zhang Sushi should be at home. Cui Enhao drove along the route he remembered towards his home. That is an independent villa with a courtyard, which was secretly gifted to him by Zhang Auntie as a new house for his precious daughter. Cui Enhao, on the other hand, publicly claimed that he won the lottery in order to purchase this wedding room. All of this is to prevent Zhang Sushi from knowing the truth. Pushing open the courtyard door, entering the password for the entrance, but being informed that the password is incorrect. Enter again and the same result will still be obtained. What's going on? Did you come to the wrong place? Or is there a memory problem? He rang the doorbell incredulously. The sound of footsteps came from far to near, and finally stopped behind the door. Cui Enhao put his eyes close to the cat's eye, wanting to see clearly inside the door, but unexpectedly saw a shrinking eyeball. The person inside the door seemed to be startled by him, let out a scream, and quickly backed away. It can be confirmed that it was the voice of his wife, Zhang Sushi, in his memory. Following the opening of the door, a serene aroma rushed in, and a girl who looked like a college student gracefully walked into sight. Her tall figure exudes a few strands of mature charm. Her slightly curled hair was casually draped on one side, and she wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on her face. Through the reflection of the lenses, a hint of indifference appeared in her eyes. Her lips were delicate, and her face was not painted, yet it was still as beautiful as a painting. She was wearing a simple white silk shirt and a slim-fitting pair of jeans, with the hem of the shirt cleverly tucked into the waist, making her waist appear even more slender, like a fruit growing from a twig. The slim-fitting black jeans tightly fitted her body, outlining her captivating curves and making her figure even more upright. Her appearance made Cui Enhao couldn't help but feel secretly happy. His wife, the glasses lady, increased his attack speed by 50%. Zhang Sushi looked at him coldly and asked, "Who are you?" Cui Enhao was slightly taken aback and pushed his non-existent glasses. In his past life, he was nearsighted, and seeing Zhang Sushi's glasses made him feel a little itchy. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Zhang Sushi continued to ask with a cold face, "Who are you?" Cui Enhao frowned slightly as he drank 3 bottles of water along the way, which urgently needed to be resolved. "Stop playing, I'm your husband." "Let me come in first," he said impatiently. Zhang Sushi sneered and hugged her chest with both hands, her plump breasts even more prominent. She put one hand on top of her glasses and sneered, "My husband won't hide from me to have sex with another woman on the second day of our wedding." Cui Enhao was taken aback and opened the room. He was completely confused. Chapter 7 was fiercely questioned. Seeking collection, seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cui Enhao was momentarily speechless, confused by the incident of opening a house, and there was no such arrangement in his memory. Zhang Sushi's gaze scanned him from top to bottom and cursed contemptuously, "It's really dirty. Go find your good schoolgirl." As she spoke, she reached out to prepare to close the door. "Wait a moment." Cui Enhao quickly grabbed the door frame with his feet and tightly grasped the edge of the door with both hands. He asked angrily, "When did I have a room with someone else?" He wondered discontentedly, why do women fabricate stories out of thin air when their emotions fluctuate, instead of communicating directly? Cui Enhao didn't care about so much, pushed the door hard and quickly got into the house and closed it. He believes that as long as 2 people are in a closed space, the dominant power is in his own hands. However, before he could explain, Zhang Sushi had already taken out her phone with a cold face, opened a photo, and suddenly stood in front of him. In the photo, Li Xuanmei's selfie perspective is clearly visible, with the background being the hotel front desk. She is facing away from the camera and reaching out to take money from her wallet. Although the items on the front desk were a bit blurry, it was still recognizable as a room card. This photo has been posted by Li Xianmei on her social media account and appears to be from a hotel near a psychological counseling institution. Cui Enhao's scalp instantly numbed, and the prepared defense words were stuck in his throat at this moment, unable to say a word. He frowned tightly and lowered his head heavily. Zhang Sushi looked at him coldly, her anger and disappointment turning into a cold sentence. "Humph. Now you know you're ashamed. You wait to be exposed." Her gaze was like a sharp sword, piercing through Cui Enhao's drooping eyes. Cui Enhao dared not lift his head, fearing that he would not be able to hide the ferocity in his eyes. His heart was filled with contradictions and struggles, and for a moment, he even thought of taking action and putting an end to everything. However, this idea only flashed by in a flash. Cui Enhao was well aware that with such advanced criminal investigation methods nowadays, if he were not fully prepared and rashly killed someone, he would not be able to escape the investigation of the police. Moreover, it is still the second day of their wedding, and if Zhang Sushi dies, then the primary suspect must be him. Various possibilities kept flashing through Cui Enhao's mind. Although he didn't know why Li Xianmei had this photo that seemed real, he had no impression of it at all. This photo has once again intensified the conflict between him and Zhang Sushi. Cui Enhao began to recall whether it was possible for him to do such a thing during the time when the original owner was hypnotized before his journey. Cui Enhao immediately rejected such ideas again. Because he can clearly feel that his body is not suffering from soil erosion. His thoughts returned to Li Xianmei. Was she really hypnotized, or was she just pretending? Cui Enhao shook his head vigorously, trying to organize his chaotic thoughts. He began to think about another possibility, which was that only he was hypnotized. During this period, Li Xianmei cleverly created an illusion and stayed at a hotel with me, and then my memory was erased by that doctor. Cui Enhao clearly felt that his body had not weakened due to indulgence. Is it because this body is too strong and doesn't feel much at once or twice? Do you think if you repent now, I will forgive your betrayal? I won't tolerate it. Zhang Sushi put down her raised jade hand and spoke resolutely without any compromise. She knew very well that if she showed weakness at such moments, it would only be herself who would be injured in the future. She has tried countless cases and is well aware of the consequences. Cui Enhao ignored her and was focused on deducing various possibilities in his mind. Perhaps the perverted Dr. Jin Shiyu was commissioned by Li Xianmei to take that photo and intensify the conflict between him and Zhang Sushi. What is all this for? Is it just to get him? He couldn't help but mock himself by touching his chin, feeling that his idea was too narcissistic. But he firmly believes that this direction is correct, at least roughly so. Speak up. We all know that silence cannot solve the problem. If you still have an excuse, speak up quickly, we still need to continue the process. Zhang Sushi urged angrily. Cui Enhao lowered his head silently. Didn't he assume that something had already happened? Zhang Sushi was burning with anger, violently shaking Cui Enhao's body in an attempt to awaken his silence. Cui Enhao seemed to find a glimmer of inspiration from her anger. He suddenly lifted his head, his eyes blazing, and locked onto Zhang Sushi. At this moment, his heart suddenly became clear, and all confusion was dispelled like mist by the sunlight. Yes, that's what we have to do. Cui Enhao was ecstatic in his heart. His original plan was to first appease Zhang Sushi's doubts, and then step by step break free from the constraints of the underworld and the control of Park Chung-won. But at this moment, he found a shortcut. Chapter 8. With decades of martial arts skills, who can withstand? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cui Enhao suddenly grabbed onto Zhang Sushi's shoulders tightly, with a solemn expression and a bright and lively gaze. What are you doing? Zhang Sushi was startled by his sudden action and her body struggled involuntarily. Cui Enhao smiled lightly and said, "Don't worry." He stared closely at Zhang Sushi's eyes and spoke seriously, "Sushi, I have a secret to tell you. I have never mentioned this secret to anyone." What secret? Zhang Sushi struggled and looked at him in confusion. I am an undercover agent. Cui Enhao's voice was firm and powerful. What? What? Zhang Sushi was stunned, obviously this answer exceeded her expectations. I am an undercover agent of the prosecutor's office in the Seven-Star Society. I came into contact with both the Seven-Star Society and your father because I am an undercover agent. Cui Enhao's voice was like the sound of a bell, clear and firm. Undercover. So your conversation with that man that night? Zhang Sushi hesitated and said. Cui Enhao took a deep breath. Dao said, I took the initiative to become an undercover agent because I know your wish is to send your father to prison, but as my son. In law, the prosecutor's office will not send me investigation documents. So. Are you just coming into contact with him, pretending to cover up for his criminal behavior, actually working as an undercover agent, secretly collecting evidence of crime? Zhang Sushi seemed to have started to understand a bit, but she still had some doubts. After all, she heard their conversation with her own ears, and every detail was deeply imprinted in her mind. Yes, but the cost is that I need to do those things to gain your father's trust, and pass on the credit during this period to Minister Park. Cui Enhao's tone was full of pain, but his gaze was as firm as iron. You know, this is the only way I can think of to fulfill your wish. But seeing you misunderstand me, the pain in my heart is indescribable. Cui Enhao's eyes were filled with deep sadness. I am not saddened that you misunderstood me, but rather that you misunderstood my intentions and thought I had broken my promise, leaving you to bear the pain of being concealed by everyone alone. Cui Enhao's voice was choked up, as if suppressing the pain in his heart. Sushi, you have to trust me. His eyes were full of determination, as if hoping for her understanding. Are you also going to investigate the case today? Zhang Sushi was somewhat surprised. She didn't expect him to say so, but these were all words from Cui Enhao. Yes, Cui Enhao admitted candidly, knowing that he had to do so to prove his innocence. How do you explain the photo? Zhang Sushi looked up and couldn't help but ask. That photo filled her heart with doubts. I was hypnotized, and the suspect in today's investigation is a psychologist. The photo was taken by the doctor who hypnotized the two of us, and I almost hit him. Cui Enhao's eyes flashed with a hint of fear, as he recalled the scene at that time and still had a hint of fear in his heart. So now. It's okay, I can only say that I'm lucky. Cui Enhao paused and then asked strangely, did you find Senior Jin Yongshan to investigate me? Yes, Zhang Sushi reluctantly admitted, knowing that her actions might hurt his heart. Would you rather believe outsiders? Cui Enhao showed a shocked expression. No, I'm just skeptical. Zhang Sushi lowered her head and hesitated, unsure of how to explain. Would you rather believe other men than your husband? Zhang Suzy, you make me very sad. Is it difficult, you and Jin Yongshan? Cui Enhao's expression was unbelievable, his eyes were painful, and his tone began to become cold and disappointed. I didn't. Zhang Sushi's tone suddenly rose and then fell low. I was just a little anxious. She didn't know how to explain, she was just too worried about him to make such a decision. It's not surprising, perhaps you overheard my conversation with my father last night. Cui Enhao took a deep breath and continued, what I said to my father at that time was just fabricated to gain his trust. If you don't believe me, you can ask my father or Minister Park, or wait a few days. The prosecutor's office announcement will reveal all the truth for you. I will wait for that announcement, Zhang Sushi gritted her teeth, feeling a little excited. If I find out I misunderstood you, then I will apologize to you. Faced with such a large amount of information, her brain instantly became chaotic, and she could only choose to temporarily let go of her doubts and wait for the announcement that Cui Enhao had mentioned. After all, official announcements won't lie. Seeing Zhang Sushi's attitude, Cui Enhao nodded in satisfaction. His plan was successful, and at this moment his heart was filled with pride. He knew that women often lose their rationality in front of their husbands, and Zhang Sushi was no exception. He has a clear mind and full of confidence now. Zhang Auntie knew he was a gangster, but he was undercover in the prosecutor's office. If Zhang Sushi asks him, he will definitely say he doesn't know. And if she asked Park Chung-won, he would never deny it. If someone can ask such a question, it means their identity is about to be exposed. Park Chung won't easily give up or ruin the fate of a subordinate prosecutor, especially since he is still working under him. Cui Enhao raised his hand and wanted to stroke Zhang Sushi's hair to test her level of trust in him. Before his hand could touch it, Zhang Sushi had already stepped back half a step, avoiding his touch. She was wearing gold-rimmed glasses, frowning slightly and looking at him with a hint of vigilance. Chapter 9. Wife's Guessing, Seeking Collection, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing this scene, Cui Enhao couldn't help but laugh. However, it doesn't matter. As long as she can temporarily eliminate her subjective recognition and no longer cause him trouble, he can start implementing his next plan. Zhang Sushi recoiled slightly and reminded, "You have other things to deal with." Cui Enhao smiled and put down his arm. "Of course, I just wanted to joke with you." Due to his travels, his feelings towards Zhang Sushi seemed like a wife in another person's mind. The joy of this Wei Wu legacy adds a touch of charm to Zhang Sushi, appearing charming and moving. Of course, women are just seasonings in life, and staple foods are the most important. People cannot be controlled by desire, otherwise the lower body will dominate the brain, ultimately leaving only the dead bones in the wasteland. Cui Enhao does have a serious matter to deal with. He needs to contact Park Chung-won, investigate Li Xianmei's motives, and inform Che's father.in.law in advance to prepare for Jin Yongshun's investigation. One matter after another needs to be resolved. Zhang Sushi's problem has been temporarily resolved. Oh, by the way, what is the password for the door? Cui Enhao suddenly remembered that he had just entered multiple times and all of them showed an incorrect password. The password has never changed. Zhang Sushi's eyes were full of doubt. No change. Cui Enhao was puzzled in his heart, but he smiled and said, "After being hypnotized, my mind is a bit confused and I can't remember. Sushi, can you tell me again?" "Well, the password is..." After asking for the password, he went out and tried it out, and the door opened smoothly. Cui Enhao and Zhang Sushi greeted and said they needed to deal with the case of the perverted doctor just now, and then walked out the door. He quickly walked into the garage and immediately dialed Park Chung-won's phone. "Minister, it's me." Cui Enhao leaned back on the car seat with a relaxed expression. "Enhao, we just spoke on the phone at noon. Is there anything we need?" Park Chung-won on the other end of the phone was somewhat surprised because Cui Enhao has always been cautious and rarely calls him twice in the same day. "Minister, I may have been discovered." Cui Enhao said softly. "West 8. What are you saying?" Park Chung-won's voice immediately became sharp, with panic and anger. "Jin Yongshun is investigating me, and as you know, everything I have done cannot be concealed from the investigation, especially when it comes to you. You come to my house immediately, we need to have an interview." Park Chung-won interrupted him and said in a deep voice. After saying these words, Park Chung-won hung up the phone and slammed his phone onto the table, his face changing inexplicably. Cui Enhao put away his phone, adjusted his seat, fastened his seatbelt, ignited the car, and drove towards Park Chung-won's house. It's time to reap some rewards for all this hard work over the years. He casually dialed Zhang Auntie's phone number again, and he needed to say hello in advance. In case Zhang Sushi really calls Zhang Auntie. In the study of the luxurious villa, Zhang Sushi sat at her desk, tightly holding her phone, furrowed her brows, and a hesitant expression on her face. Her gaze fell on the divorce agreement that had just been printed out this morning next to the computer, paused for a long time, and her heart was filled with waves. As if she had made up her mind, she opened the drawer and took out Cui Enhao's resume, which she had only recently received, and began to read it carefully. Last night, she locked the door directly and didn't let Cui Enhao in. They are not in a knowing the root, knowing the bottom relationship now. Zhang Sushi cannot forget last night's conversation between Cui Enhao and her father, which included detailed information about intelligence, location, and plans. Although Cui Enhao's words today were sincere, the doubts in her heart were not dispelled. Zhang Sushi frowned deeper and deeper as she looked at Cui Enhao's resume from over a decade ago. Zhang Sushi knew he was an orphan, and she never cared about his family background. What she cared about was only his diligence, integrity, and exceptional intelligence demonstrated in the training institute. The most crucial point is that he is handsome. Zhang Sushi found out that he was constantly supported by relatives, which shook her heart. During the time they met, Cui Enhao never took her to visit any relatives, nor did he mention anything before college to her. This suddenly gave Zhang Sushi a chilling conjecture in her heart. Perhaps her husband has always been an undercover agent in the prosecutor's gang. Since he became a prosecutor and came into contact with her father, he has been providing shelter for the Seven-Star Society, colluding with them, just to repay his previous support. And also using criminal cases from other gangs to block the prosecution's mouth. Although some of the cases she usually deals with are quite bizarre, how could this kind of plot, which only happens in TV dramas, be staged in her life? The more Zhang Sushi thought about it, the more fearful she felt, and even began to doubt whether her encounter with Cui Enhao was also planned by her father. If all of this is true, that's really scary, it's chilling. Chapter 10. Minister Park's Ambition, Seeking Collection, Seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a period of emotional recovery, Zhang Sushi took out her phone, found the number she hadn't dialed for a long time, and pressed the dial button. She decided to investigate first, as there seemed to be too many secrets about this man. The phone was quickly connected. Is it Sushi? The voice over there sounded very happy. Father. Cui Enhao finally found Park Chung-won's home, which was a luxurious single-family villa. Shiba. Corrupt officials are really despicable. They suck on the people's hard-earned money but don't give them a share of the pie. Damn it. Cui Enhao cursed inwardly, insisting that Park Chung-won spit out the embezzled money. Press the doorbell. The door opened in response, and Park Chung-won appeared at the entrance. A middle-aged man with a calm temperament and a slender figure, who appears to be under 40 years old, has a simple face, but is full of officialdom. I've seen the minister, Cui Enhao said with a respectful bow. Now is not the time to turn a blind eye. Park Chung-won frowned and said coldly, come in. Cui Enhao put on his pre-prepared slippers, only to find a pair of exquisite leather shoes at the threshold. Do you think there are others? Minister, I apologize for coming in a hurry and not preparing any local specialties, Cui Enhao said apologetically. Let's talk inside, Su Jian is also here. Park Chung-won walked towards the living room with his hands behind his back, feeling clearly unhappy. Cui Enhao followed him to the living room and saw a middle-aged man with a slightly bulging beer belly sitting in the main seat, smiling at him. Cui Enhao thought for a moment and recognized the identity of this person. Su Jinming, the minister of the 3rd Criminal Department, with ordinary ability in appearance, is a famous veteran. He got the position of minister by mixing his qualifications. He usually plays the adoptive role and is only good at flattery and flattery. It seems that he came to flatter Park Chung-won today. Minister Su is still here. Cui Enhao's face showed surprise. I'm just here to taste some tea and discuss my life with Minister Park. Su Jinming still smiled. Prosecutor Cui is also here. I'm just coming over to submit my work report. I just transferred a case. Being young is good, full of vitality. On the 2nd day of their wedding, they threw themselves into the case. But I heard that Prosecutor Cui seemed to have only handled a few major cases in the past 6 months, and the assessment results were not satisfactory. How come he has become so positive now? Su Jinming took a light sip of tea, and a smile still hung on his face. Laughing at you for giving me a coin, squinting my eyes, I really want to punch you in the face. Cui Enhao felt a bit awkward. You can just sit there. Park Chung-won pointed to the end of the living room table and said. Is asking me to sit at the bottom of the table as soon as I come up, implying that I am just a little karami. Cui Enhao nodded slightly and calmly pulled out his chair to sit down. Minister Park, this case is quite complex, and my work report may take a considerable amount of time. Minister Su is also here to accompany me. It seems inappropriate. Cui Enhao glanced at Park Chung-won and then swept his gaze over Su Jinming. It is not advisable to let outsiders know about our affairs casually, as they need to express their attitude. As expected, as soon as the words fell, Su Jinming's face slightly changed. He looked at Park Chung-yuan and asked for his opinion with his eyes. Minister Su is his own person. Park Chung-yuan waved his hand, indicating that Cui Enhao didn't need to worry, and said it was okay. Jin Yongshun is investigating me, Cui Enhao said straightforwardly without beating around the bush. Why did the gold inspection investigate you? Su interjected on the side. Cui Enhao did not directly respond, but instead chose to ask Park Chung-won. Minister. Who should I report to between you and him? Listen to him finish speaking first. Park Chung-won frowned slightly and turned his gaze to Su Jinming. Yes, yes. Su Jinming accompanied his smiling face and nodded repeatedly. He doesn't have a deep background like Park Chung-won. He comes from a poor background and can only survive by worshipping his adoptive father. Although they are both referred to as ministers, the difference in status is obvious. Where has the matter progressed? Park Chung-won turned his head and asked in a low voice. They have already understood some of my 7-Star Society's actions, but if we continue to investigate further, we are afraid that we will soon touch on what I have done for you. I see. Park Xingyuan nodded slightly and said, how is the situation on the 7-Star Society side? They may also realize that I am an undercover agent of the prosecutor's office. Cui Enhao continued to fabricate a lie. So how do you plan to respond? If you can't cover it up, then the person in charge of the investigation. Park Chung-won's eyes suddenly became sharp, and he didn't want to lose this undercover agent who could bring him countless honors so soon. He wants to control Cui Enhao for a lifetime. If the investigation continues, his corrupt behavior will inevitably be exposed, posing a threat to his career. So, the most direct way is to get rid of the investigators. As long as no one conducts an investigation, the secret can naturally be kept.